In the late 1990s and early 2000s, the Himalayan foothills became an active war zone. Thousands of Maoist rebels waged a decade-long armed insurgency against the national government. Widespread protests by regional groups like the Madesi people brought entire cities to a standstill. These citizens demanded a total overhaul of the country's power structure, calling for a system of governance that didn't yet exist in Nepal: federalism. For centuries, Nepal functioned as a unitary state. Every major political and economic decision was strictly centralized, funneled into and hoarded by a single ruling class in the capital city of Kathmandu. Because power was bottlenecked at the center, remote districts were starved of infrastructure and development. Ethnic minorities like the Janajati were systematically locked out of the decision-making process, causing intense political pressure to build in the dark regions of the map. To relieve that pressure, marginalized citizens demanded that Kathmandu surrender its absolute control and adopt federalism. To understand why this specific political structure is deployed as a cure for a fractured nation, we have to look back 400 years. Dividing government power is rarely a clean administrative exercise. In places like Nepal, it is a hard-fought compromise that determines who actually gets a voice in their own survival. In 1603, a philosopher named Johannes Althusius proposed a distinct way to organize society. He argued against the divine right of absolute monarchs, suggesting instead that a nation should be built on a series of nested agreements, or covenants, starting from the family, up to the city, and finally the province. By 1787, American founders like James Madison stripped the theology from that concept and translated it into a concrete political framework. They built the aggregation model. Independent states merge, surrendering powers for mutual strength, like defense, while retaining local police powers. This lets states act as laboratories of democracy, experimenting with tailored policies, like varied gun control in the US or different languages in India. By guaranteeing the independence of its diverse parts, a fractured group of states can construct a wealthy, unified, and powerful nation. The tie-boat model explains local autonomy's risks. Citizens vote with their feet, moving to jurisdictions offering the services they prefer. Mobile, high-income citizens group together, heavily funding elite infrastructure, leaving neighboring areas starved of revenue and basic services. That same local autonomy also creates logistical traps. When overlapping local, state, and national agencies all claim legal jurisdiction over the same problem, massive emergencies can freeze the entire system. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina submerged New Orleans. The relief effort was notoriously delayed, as city mayors, state governors, and federal agencies bickered over who actually had the legal authority to deploy troops and authorize evacuations. The exact same local independence that allows a state to invent a clever new policy can simultaneously isolate its poorest residents and bring disaster relief to a grinding halt. Which brings us back to the Himalayas. Nepal didn't adopt federalism by stitching independent colonies together. They utilized the structural opposite of the American path: devolution. Devolution is a process where a highly centralized, unitary national government chooses to surrender its own power. It fractures its authority down to the regional level to satisfy the demands of restless local groups. After years of violence, Nepal passed a new constitution in 2015. They took their unitary state and carved it into 7 distinct provinces, establishing an entirely new tier of regional government. Drawing those provincial lines was instantly controversial. Lawmakers fought bitterly over whether to shape the provinces based on geographic convenience or to recognize specific ethnic identities, a battle won by the historically marginalized Madesi people, who successfully secured a province named Madhya Pradesh. Devolution essentially serves as a survival tactic. Kathmandu fragmenting the state was a desperate measure to appease fractured identities and keep the nation from tearing itself apart. But drawing provinces on paper did not instantly resolve Nepal's deep inequalities. Today, the country is wrestling with a severe crisis in fiscal federalism. Fiscal federalism is the study of how revenues and public responsibilities are divided among different levels of government. The central government in Kathmandu still collects and controls the vast majority of the nation's tax revenue. That leaves the new provincial governments almost entirely dependent on federal transfers, struggling to hire trained personnel or build infrastructure. Political patronage and corruption remained intact, too. They simply migrated, taking root in these newly created layers of local government. These struggles aren't uniquely Himalayan. From overlapping jurisdictions in America to rigid Swiss alpine cantons, no federal system is perfectly settled. The 2015 Constitution provided a framework, but federalism itself is an active daily negotiation. It is the difficult choice to accept that shared power, while messy, provides a stronger foundation than hoarding it.